Good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. And I am always thrilled to be here each and almost every day, not every day, to host business as usual. And we've been doing this since COVID, and it's hard to believe it's about 16 months, but we have had a chance to have conversations with amazing people who have a lot of impact, and today is no different. We are thrilled to have Pennsylvania Senator Bob Mensch, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he's up to and all the things that he cares about and has been leading, including this clean transportation infrastructure bill, which we all care about here in southwestern Pennsylvania, as well as around the country and the world. So I want to thank Huntington Bank for being our sponsors and just being great partners over the year, and everything that we do in terms of highlighting the region, talking about issues that impact us, and being supportive to our business, both large and small. Also, huge appreciation to AT&T. They have always been partners with us on our public policy series. Today is no exception. And they have been amazing at the beginning of COVID and all through, making sure people have access to the tools that they need who work remotely, and make sure that people are safe and sound. They've just been terrific ambassadors for the region and for making sure that the digital divide sort of got eradicated. So 40 by 80, that's the longitude and latitude of the Pittsburgh Tech Council and our charitable arm. And that's where we focus on education and pathways to new opportunities. So we've muted your microphones. Jonathan Kirsting, Vice President of all things media and marketing, is with us as always, and he will keep his eye on the chat. And we are here to have a conversation, not to sell our wares. It's really an opportunity to do a little bit of a deep dive with our guest, and I'm going to bring him right on right now. So welcome to the program, Senator Mensch. Thank you so much for being with us. And before we get started, what we really love to do is just to get to know a little bit about you. So can you share a little bit about your background, before you joined the General Assembly, and maybe a little bit about the 24th District?
Sure. Audrey, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. It's good to be here, joined with all of you. My background, I was in telecom for 35 years, 28 of those years with a company called AT&T. You might be familiar with them. Yeah, I was on the equipment side most of my life, computers and premises equipment. I spent another 7 years with a CLEC called Arbros Communications, and did a great deal of business out in the Pittsburgh area. In fact, I still remember being in Pittsburgh on 9/11, being out there for business reasons. So, wow. So there are good memories and not so good memories with Pittsburgh, but fantastic town. I was out the other week for another event, and it's just a growing, bustling area. I love it out there. It has a much more Midwestern feel to it than the Philadelphia that I am so accustomed to. The 24th Senate District comprises parts of 3 counties in Montgomery County, Bucks County, and Berks County. I am in the northwestern sector of Montgomery County, and then the adjoining parts of Bucks and Berks.
So that's kind of a mix, right? Wouldn't you say you cut across sort of a pretty diverse community, some of it rural and some of it closer to Philly?
Yes, we have urban, suburban, and we have rocks and trees. We have rural. Yes, but it's a great district, and I grew up as a Pennsylvania German, so I have a great deal of contact with those folks still out in the Berks County or in the Bucks County.
That's great. That's great. So you have a nice snapshot of Pennsylvania, which is great. So you serve on the leadership team in the PA Senate. Correct. You also serve on several really important and relevant committees to all of us, including the Senate Communications and Technology Committee. And given by your background, we know that you probably add tremendous value there, and the Community, Economic, and Recreational Activities Committee. So we're here, we want to talk about the clean infrastructure. But before we do that, talk about your work, and including your work as co-chair of the Senate Life Sciences Caucus and your work on the Jobs Caucus. So there's a lot to cover, but it would be great for us to know all that you're working on and that what you've participated in.
Sure. My true motivation for even getting involved in politics was economic development. Pennsylvania is a great state. I've enjoyed many years living here, all of my years of life practically. But it's we are a very diverse state. We have a great many opportunities from both a resource, a natural resource, as well as human resource potentials. But I think that we underutilize a lot of our resource, particularly the human capital, and we don't give enough opportunity to grow our businesses, expand our businesses, build our economy. Once again, with the latest report we've had on unemployment data, Pennsylvania still trends well behind the nation. In the 15 years that I've been in the legislature, I think that's true every month. That says that we're not capitalizing, no pun intended, but we're not capitalizing on the resources that we have available. And so we need to figure out a better way to do business. Pennsylvania has a very well embedded culture, but one that I think has to modify, change, and be able to grow and expand, so that we can accommodate the youth, the people that are growing up into the more culturally and technically diverse corporations that are beginning to develop here in Pennsylvania and across the United States. And that takes me to the life sciences, where there are great opportunities to benefit mankind through many advances in life sciences. It could be gene therapies and other areas of investigation or research. It could also be the equipment, the materials that are necessary to support someone's life, exosuits, some kind of mechanical devices for individuals. It could be devices used in surgery, medical procedures. It's PPE. It's a very diverse area, but it's one that I think all of our lives have been impacted with over the last 16 months, particularly. We have a growing or an increased awareness of what PPE means. That's an acronym that was probably alien to 90% of us 17 months ago. And today we talk about it as if it was part of our natural life. So life sciences contributes to all of that. It is a very capital intensive area. It needs some stewardship from the state. Some of the things that we can do from a tax perspective or an investment perspective. And so it gives the state great opportunity to work with industry in growing our economy. Even with that, the failure rate in that industry is fairly high. And it's not a shortage of capital. Very often it's more so that the research just didn't take us to the endpoint that we needed to be. But that doesn't take away from the need to have the state be a vital partner to life sciences development in the state. And we have a legacy here in the Southeast, where I hail from. We have a legacy of fine human resource researchers, chemists, pharmaceutical researchers and technicians. We have a great many opportunities to help them expand their lives and provide better for their families if we just give them the right tools. And what's the worst that can happen? It expands the economy. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to talk about the Clean Infrastructure Act, right? You want to jump into that, or do you want to talk a little bit about the Committee on Communications and Technology?
Well, we can talk about that briefly.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here again, Pennsylvania, like so many states, we found that we probably didn't have adequate infrastructure for communications as we went into remote schooling, remote healthcare, and so forth. And the buzzword now is broadband. That seems to encompass everything that's wrong with communications right now. It's a much more complex issue than that, but we have not had adequate build out of the sophisticated, the more advanced services that are necessary if we want to tie everybody together and give them all the appropriate bandwidth to be able to have the kind of communications I think that we all expect. But it's been economically driven, it's been private market driven, and I have no problem with that. But I think that we need to have ultimately we need some additional government guidance to try and help that last mile, which is a term from the old telecom days, or the POTS, plain old telephone service.
Right.
That last mile has to be something that the government encourages because the economics may not be there for a provider. So there are some things that we're doing there. There's far more that we need to do. But it's certainly something that could, again, enhance the economic growth of the state.
So do you think, though, that during COVID, when we really saw the last mile fall apart, that there's an appetite to begin to address some of these issues that you're talking about? Because COVID definitely heightened our awareness.
Yes, I would say that there is an appetite. There's laws of elasticity will come in, economics, supply and demand will come in. People are willing to pay so much, but not more. So we have to be able to, and that's where the PUC and some of the regulatory process will come in still. I think there's a place for that remaining in that area of communications. I have some thoughts. It'll take too long here, I think, but there are certain ways of trying to incent that additional growth that the state can participate in.
Okay. Do you want to mention one or not?
Well, it's a program that I call the 21st Century Capital Investment. It's a program that I introduced maybe 4 years ago now. It's been flying under the radar because it's at a very large capital level, 100 million, and we took it down to 60 million capital investment. That's too high for some of these smaller telecom companies. So today we, in fact, in committee, we were able to move it out at $1 million. So it's not a tax credit program; it's a tax deduction program. So there's an incentive on the back end for a company to do what they say they're going to do in terms of investment, spend their own money, but have the state reward you for spending your money. I think if we were a little bit more creative in that area, if we can get it through at $1 million, get the administration to cooperate with us, why we'd have one more tool, or as we say, one more arrow in the quiver. Right? So
now, last session, you introduced a bill called the Clean Infrastructure Act. I made reference to it earlier. That attracted support in businesses and environmental advocacy organizations, including the National Resource Defense Council. So sort of emerging sometimes of people who don't all come together. You've set an ambitious goal to increase electric vehicle adoption by 50% over the current forecast by 2030, which doesn't seem that far away. So can you talk about why that's important? Talk a little bit about the bill.
Yes, thank you. The intent of the bill is to expand the availability of charging stations, really. You know, it's when you start talking about electric vehicles and charging stations, you get into a chicken and an egg kind of argument. You want to sell more electric vehicles, but we don't have enough charging stations. We don't have enough charging stations, so we can't sell more vehicles. So where does the government play a role in that? We don't manufacture automobiles, so our responsibility, methinks, is more in the area of the charging stations. So we are trying to, the bill would encourage electric companies to plan and position charging stations. After all, who provides the electric? It's the EDCs, or the energy distribution companies. So we need them to work with us on positioning charging stations. Now, I would tell you that, and I was guilty of this initially, the perception was that charging stations would be at a mall, right? We go shopping, we plug in our electric car and go home. But that's really not where the need is. It's along it's along the major transportation arteries. It's along the turnpike. It's along Route 78. It's along Route 80 and so forth. where we're traveling long distances and when we're running short on that energy, we can stop and recharge. So the electric companies would be charged, be required to provide a plan to ambitiously build out or more ambitiously build out charging stations.
So, yeah, we're excited about EVs. So, you know, you talk about, it also asks the administration to back the General Assembly to help support hydrogen, CNG, and other lower carbon.
Yeah, I didn't get to that yet, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
There are a number of alternative energies. I remember a number of years ago, T. Boone Pickens pretty much left his oil investments and moved to Canada and did hydrogen. I think there's a great opportunity there. There's a company in my, just outside of my district actually, but the owner of the company lives in my district. I visited several times where they do make hydrogen generators. And he ships all across the world. It's arguably it's the most renewable form of energy there is. You're taking water and you're creating hydrogen. He and some of his employees use automobiles that are Nissans that are hydrogen driven. They are now marketing hydrogen vehicles in California. There is a full production facility for Nissan in Asia, making just hydrogen vehicles. So it's a technology that's coming. It's not here yet in America, but I think it's one more that needs to be investigated and understood. I've had some people tell me, gee, that's gas under pressure. That's very dangerous. So is gasoline, you know, so is the propane tank in your backyard. So with every opportunity, there's also some risk. We need to understand how we minimize that and move the economy forward to accommodate it. So it's electric, it's maybe natural gas, certainly hydrogen, and we have we have a couple world dominant or prominent manufacturers of gas products, air products. So here in Pennsylvania, maybe we should work with them and find out what they're doing and see how we adapt that to the automobile as well.
Jonathan, there's some questions out there that I would love to be able to ask the senator.
Lots of questions and some good comments as well too. And great to have you on the show today, Senator.
Sure.
This is a really good one here from Dave DeMays. I never really thought about this until he brought this up. So he wants to know, what are the transitional solutions to lost revenue on gasoline tax when more EVs are on the road in the future?
Well, that we could talk a lot about that. The formula that we have for gasoline tax, I don't think is adequate. I think it's going to have to be scrapped and rethought. Senator Langerholtz, who chairs the Transportation Committee here in the Senate, I know has a working group together doing that. We're looking at what all the alternatives. The governor has put together a group of, I don't know, 30, 40 people, diverse industrial backgrounds and economic backgrounds to begin to think about it and figure out what do we do that's different. But cars becoming more efficient, other alternative sources coming into play, the gas tax just is no longer adequate.
Excellent. So Tara Crow wants to know, she says she's the happy driver of a Chevy Volt. She takes a lot of heat about the battery that could not be recycled. Is there plans for these batteries?
I visited with East Penn Manufacturing not too long ago, and we were talking about the differences between the normal automobile batteries and the batteries that go into electric vehicles. I'm not a scientist. I have to tell you, a lot of the conversation probably went past me. I felt like I was standing at a fire hydrant trying to get a drink. But there are plans to try and come up with recycling of, what do they call it? Are they NiCad? I forget what technology batteries they are and they're rechargeable, but it is difficult to recycle those right now. But it's another opportunity, and I think we've got to solve. And if the demand is created, we'll solve the problem. But we have to have that demand first.
Excellent. Do we want to read any of the comments here, Audrey, or should we just
Yeah.
keep on?
Why don't you just give some of the comments? It's lithium. So
Absolutely.
Stephen,
Lithium, thank you.
yeah,
Yes.
it's
Lithium-ion
lithium.
batteries.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that can be repurposed for many other things. Are there any other comments, Jonathan, that you want to grab?
Yeah, here's actually a really great one from Stephen DeFrank. Says, he said another 351 companies already operating in Pennsylvania that currently serve the state's transportation supply chain that could, with minimal investment, transition to the EV supply chain, which is pretty interesting. Those same companies have shed jobs over the past decade. So obviously this is an opportunity for some growth here with EVs.
That's great. So, are you going to respond to that, Senator?
I was just going to say, in almost everything economic, there's always an upstream and a downstream impact to the primary product. And the primary product happens to be the rechargeable vehicle. But as Jonathan just read from Mr. DeFrank, 351 companies that we know of through our own research, there are probably more, but that could all benefit. And what happens to the state? Well, we're talking about more employment. We're talking about more tax revenues. We're talking about more disposable income for those families into the economy. So we all benefit in the end. And we get greener besides.
Right. So, on this program, Senator, we've hosted, over the last few months, actually, some of the world's largest manufacturers of electric buses, including Lion Electric and most recently New Flyer. They actually, which sold a bunch of their buses to our Port Authority here of Pittsburgh. Are you hearing from Pennsylvania manufacturing companies that are selling into the EV market space? Are you hearing anything? Like, is it?
It's more tangential. It's part of those 351 companies that have joined our support of the bill. But I will tell you, I was in Korea 2 years ago on a more personal trip with some Korean friends, and we did visit a manufacturer of electric buses there. They sell them Seoul. Seoul is almost entirely electric bus now, and they're dynamite. It was a great ride. They ride just like a bus. But they're a lot greener and better for the economy and better for the environment.
So, right, that the New Flyer's EV bus, by the way, it's made right here in Natrona.
Okay.
By Siemens. So,
We'll have to get out and see it.
Right, you need to come down and see it. That's right. And so, we have the beginning of evidence of opportunity. So it's the engine, not the bus, I meant. So we have the beginnings of the opportunities here. That's what we're pretty excited about.
Yep.
And what about the bill? Can you talk about, like, what can we do? What are the prospects of the bill passing this session? And if people are interested in learning more, about the legislation, where should they reach?
The longer a bill hangs around in Harrisburg, the longer the opposition always has a chance to build their argument. And we're feeling a little bit of that right now. And we're still in some phase of negotiation, I would suggest. I don't think the bill is in its final form. I think we still have some refining to do, more so around the electric. How do we recover the costs? And if the federal government was to come through with what they're suggesting on the infrastructure bill and electric vehicles, wouldn't it be nice if we could take the capital that we need and rather than put it on ratepayers, be able to take it out of that stimulus program? So we're kind of watching, see what happens there. A little bit of hope. Hope's never a strategy, but it's as good as the other strategy we've got right now. So
are there incentives like in the bill that you've been thinking about, or maybe adding to it, that incentivizes utilities to build more charging stations?
That's a good thought. I'm not sure that we've talked a lot about that. It's been on the table, but we haven't really come up with a formula that works well because it's more regionalized. If it was statewide, it's a whole lot easier to do that. But we have a regional effect, and it affects one large company more than others. So as a consequence, we have to be careful that we don't give preferential.
Right. So if people are interested in learning more about the legislation, is there someone on your team that they can reach out to?
It would be David Kozak, Kozak.
Okay,
David can be reached at 717-787-3110 or
Okay.
D Kozak at PASEN.gov.
okay, great. You can see that we're pretty excited about that, and it is all about,
I appreciate it. You know, we just got recent good support out of the Philadelphia Chamber as well. So, you know, we have two larger
great.
registrations of vehicles and people in the state, and
Mhm.
getting support from those areas.
Okay, and we're gonna be sharing some fact sheets. I think it'll be in the chat session of the call as well. So from nrdc.org. Is there anything else that you're working on, Senator, that you think we need to be cognizant of and that we can be supportive of, particularly given economic development and prosperity and jobs and attracting companies to stay and to build their companies here as well as stay?
Yeah, before I do, I know Steve DeFrank, and that picture there is not Steve DeFrank.
Yeah, you see that? Steve
yeah.
DeFrank is writing things
Yeah.
in the chat for you.
We had a great conversation over the last couple of days about renewing our efforts around net operating loss and trying to open that at least for 1 year because of the COVID.
Okay.
We'd like to see it become more permanent in the tax code. We're at what, 40%? US is at 80% carry forward of a loss. So we'd like to work on that, improve that. Myself and Senator Allman have interest in doing bills on changing the way the CNI, or actually reducing CNI.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd take it down to 6.99% over 3 years. I'm tired of hearing the false claim of the Delaware loophole. I mean, it's people choose to incorporate in Delaware because we make it too expensive in Pennsylvania. It's not a loophole. It's we have control of this because we encourage companies not to incorporate here.
Right.
You know, I don't know why we want to blame somebody else for our failure. So we've had that legislation for a number of years, and there's always a pushback from revenue that we're giving up too much money. But because we don't use dynamic modeling here in the state, we can't really judge what future potential we might realize. So I'm working with Senator Brown in appropriations, and we'd like to move forward with consideration for dynamic modeling as becoming a normal tool in our economic planning or our financial planning here in the state.
Good. Well, I can't thank you enough for being as busy as you are, and all the committees that you're on. All of them matter to all of us here. And so I think we've given people the links and ways to access that and to, you know, help support the bill and maybe give some input as well. So appreciate your leadership. Appreciate you representing these interests because they deeply matter to us across Southwestern Pennsylvania, if not the entire state. So your work touches all of us.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it matters to you. It matters to us. So yeah, it's a mutual thing. So.
No, it's great. It's totally great. Thank you so much. Hats off. Thank you, Brian Kennedy, for getting Senator Mensch here with us today, and to your team. So thank you so much.
Okay.
These are matters that matter to us. So Jonathan, what do we have on the wraps next?
I am so excited for tomorrow's business as usual because we are talking about digital twins in healthcare. It's part of our Jewish Healthcare Foundation High Tech, High Touch series. Our next installment, we have ANSYS stopping by as well as Unlearn AI. Really cool stuff.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Senator. Stay safe. Thank you for your leadership.
See you.